Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody. Your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. I'm Bob Matthews. Hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss a day of our coverage. Shout out to our tribe out there. We just passed 12,000 followers on Facebook. Thank you all so much for following the channel. It means everything to us. Thank you all so much. We will continue to hold up our end of the bargain to bring you coverage every day of the week during the season on the Burgundy and Gold so you don't miss anything. I can't tell you how proud we are to have grown the channel this big, this fast. Let's start out with some camp notes today. Oh, hey, by the way, I would be remiss if I mentioned that the good folks at Kalshi are bringing us this episode today and every day during the season. I can't believe I almost forgot about them. I will tell you more about Kalshi coming up in just a couple of minutes. Okay, now camp notes. I'm just excited to get to this because we're starting to see a pattern here that could be a pretty good pattern for this year, and that's on offense. Once again today, if you kind of aggregate all of the reports that you've heard from out of camp today, it is, once again, we're getting a theme here, and that theme is that Jaden Daniels is looking really, really good. When you've got a guy that's as talented as Jaden, and the words you're hearing him described as is, sharp, dynamic, a playmaker, things like that, you got to think that he could be a very, very dangerous weapon here, and that's what you want. The franchise quarterback is that one guy in the lineup that's going to elevate everybody else, no matter who's playing around him. And that's why, even though you're concerned about injuries, and there are plenty of those that we'll get to in a minute, when you got a guy like Jaden, if he's going to play at a franchise quarterback QB1 elite tier level, it's going to mean that it's a lot easier to survive some of those injuries. One of the highlights, and you may have seen it on social today, a buddy found Chigakonkwo in the end zone for a touchdown right at the end of 11-on-11 work. And again, that's something else that we have noticed a lot of this training camp, is we're seeing reports almost every day that Jaden and Okonkwo are connecting, and they're really building a rapport. And man, is that going to be important. It might be the most critical piece of the receiving puzzle this year because Jaden likes to find his tight ends. You might remember, the last 2 years, Zach Ertz, it was every time they needed a big third down, it was Zach Ertz. It seemed like they got it. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Jaden was a rookie and, in 2024, and he should be, this being his third year, he's more comfortable with the pro game. He should be able to go to a number of different targets, but still, hey, if he likes going to a tight end if he likes throwing to a tight end in a crucial situation with a gotta have you 5, 6, 7, 10 yards, fine. Chigakonkwo will fill that role, it looks like, really, really well. Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin also looking good. And, the better that this offense looks in practice, you start thinking, okay, Okonkwo, Diggs, McLaurin, these skill position guys are looking pretty good. Maybe, a group that can do some stuff this year. And, of course, health has to be a part of it. But if they've got, if you've got the roots there, if you've got the baseline talent, that could make for a very, very interesting year on the offense. And with the fact that they have overhauled the defense so much personnel-wise, the more the offense can stay on the field, the more points the offense can score. Obviously, take that pressure off the defense. They don't have to be as perfect since we think, at least at this point, we think that the offense is going to be ahead of the defense once the season starts. All right, as for those injuries we were talking about, it's starting to mount up for him. The good news was that Nick Allegretti and John Bates both came back yesterday, although Allegretti did not get through the entire practice. He was nursing that calf, and now he was out once again. And the list really is starting to grow here. You can add Rashad White to it. Nikki Javala put together a list of all of the injuries. Teams don't have to disclose any injury, really. They don't, the information we got from Dan Quinn at the press conference was pretty much because Dan Quinn's a stand-up guy and he'll give you stuff to work with, as opposed to somebody like Bill Belichick, who, would just probably say they're on to Cincinnati. But Nikki compiled this list. Shout out to her. Read her stuff on The Athletic. She's president of the Pro Football Writers of America. And so here's the list of guys that the Commanders have that are banged up right now. Marcus Mariota with an MCL, Jeremy McNichols with a quad, Jerome Ford with a hamstring. He's on injured reserve. River Craycraft, they've already put on injured reserve. We don't know what his injury is, but again, on IR. John Bates with that hamstring, he's back. Laramie Tunsil with the triceps. He is not on IR yet, but he will go on IR. Nick Allegretti, Tim Settle. Now Johnny Newton's on the list. And Johnny Newton apparently injured his pec in the game last week. And one thing that Dan Quinn told us that you might say is concerning is the fact that Newton not only wasn't at practice today, but was seeing a specialist in New York to try and decide how, in fact, they're going to fix this. That does not sound good. That sounds like he could wind up on IR or maybe even, they just say that his season's done, especially if he needs surgery. Dietrich Wise, still on injured reserve, or actually he's on the PUP list still with a quad that he ripped last year. Adafioye now didn't practice, and he is listed as, well, he's not listed as anything, but we know that he hurt his calf. Clavon Chasen hurt his knee in the game last week against the Dolphins. Jordan McGee injured his shoulder, and of course now Trey Amos with an ankle. So they're not all serious. This time of year, you want to take your time with guys. You don't want to rush them back. You want to be careful. But a couple of them we know are significant. And again, you just look at it, that's 10 or 12 guys and that, are nursing one ailment or another. And all of them are literally all of them except for, I guess I wasn't even expecting River Craycraft to make the roster this year. He and Jerome Ford probably were candidates for the practice squad. Dietrich Wise may or may not have, nobody was counting on him to really come back this year. It would have been a bonus if he was able to play. But everybody else on that list is somebody that they were expecting and still are expecting big contributions out of this year. Again, we're still more than a month away from week 1 against the Eagles. Plenty of time to get healthy, but still, you got to start to get concerned about that many injuries this early in camp. Again, hopefully they're just being careful with most of them and everything is going to be fine. All right, we've still got a month until the season starts, and everyone is making predictions. Still, even at this point, they're making predictions right now. Who wins the division, who makes the playoffs, who's lifting the trophy at the end of the season. On Kalshi, which, of course, is America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade all of those predictions in a live market. So think about it. How many wins are the Commanders going to have this year? It's going to be more than 7.5. By the way, that was a great question that a bunch of you guys answered. We'll go through that in a little while. Right now, if you want to bet on the Commanders winning 8 games this year, right now, having a winning record. Sorry. If the Commanders have a winning record, right now there is a 32% probability on the market that they have a winning season. They are trading at 15% to win the NFC East, and they are trading at 4% to win the NFC Championship. Now, think about that. If you would put a bet on them a couple of years ago, or if you were to buy into them to make it to win the NFC title this year, and they go on a run like they did in 2024, you could see your investment start to grow throughout the year, and you could get to Championship Sunday and say, you know what, I'm going to take my profits now. That's the thing about it. You can get out of these things anytime you want on Kalshi. So how do you do it, you ask? Well, on Kalshi, and you're trading against your peers in this live market, and that means there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. So trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. All you got to do, go download the Kalshi app, use the code FANARCHFOOTBALL, and you'll get $10 when you trade $10. Not bad. Kalshi, Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. All right, back to it now. Sonny Styles talking yesterday and really liking what I'm hearing from him when folks were asking him about what he thought of his first game. Wasn't that thrilled with how he played, and said that he promises he will get better. Love hearing stuff like that from Styles. You want to hear that all he wants to do is get better, 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 better. I thought he played okay. I really did. When you go back and look at the tape, it didn't look like things were too fast for him. He was reacting, not thinking. I think the sky is the limit for him, and I can't wait to see some growth out of him this week against Detroit. I think he will probably play. Hey, Javon, I meant a couple other guys that I meant to mention in the training camp notes from earlier. Javon Kinlaw has also looked really, really good, and with Johnny Newton out for at least a little while, if Kinlaw steps up, that's going to be a really good thing for the defense. And Antonio Hamilton, Sr., is going to make it really, really tough on the coaches when deciding who to keep in the defensive backfield. He had a real nice interception on Athan Kali-Manis during team drills. And back to Kinlaw for a second, he stuffed Katron Allen on 11-on-11 drills, and Katron Allen has been having a great camp. So shout out to those two guys right there. Again, you want to develop depth. It's really, really starting to look like, and I'm trying to guard against Ashburn syndrome here, but it looks like, this whole thing is coming together that Adam Peters put together. So keep knocking on wood that those guys get healthy, and if they do, could be an interesting season. All right, let's go ahead and get to the mailbag and see what you guys have to say. Hey, shout out to Terry Windsor, our number one fan in Wales, saying thanks for the shout out yesterday. The Cardiff Wrexham match, he says it was a good spectacle, but I think Cardiff will struggle against a bunch of very good teams in the league with much better and stronger squads than Cardiff. But who knows? We shall see. I agree, Terry. I think the Bluebirds, let's just root for the Bluebirds to surprise us this year. How about that? He goes on to say, HTTR, hoping for JD5 to have a terrific season. Looks like we have a much stronger and a more balanced team than last year. We're going to rattle a few cages this season. Can't wait for the fun to begin, and let's be entertained. Love the optimism, Terry. It's absolutely fantastic. And back to the Facebook page real quick. And our 12,000 followers, those of you who answered the question that we had up there. Will the Washington Commanders win more or less than 7.5 games? And the number one answer on that comes from Nicholas Deere, who says he thinks they will win 7.4 games. Well played, Nicholas. Very well played. It's going to do it for us. We got to get on out of here. Don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button. Catch you again tomorrow as we get ready for preseason game number 2, which is noon Saturday in Detroit. We'll see you then. Remember, like the wise man once said, if you're out on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.